Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special Prog Report interview. I'm very pleased to welcome back to the podcast Derek Shulman, founding member of Gentle Giant, record executive responsible for a lot of bands we listen to. So a lot to talk about. And there's a brand new live reissue of Playing the Fool that we're going to talk about, which comes out on May 2nd. Welcome back, sir.
Nice to see you again.
So, one thing that's fascinating for me with Gentle Giant and the influence that you guys have had, it almost seems like in the last 10 years, almost like you guys are a new band. It's like all this stuff is coming out all the time, and all these people are rediscovering the music and realizing, oh my God, this band influenced all the stuff we listen to now. Do you see it like that? Because I think for me growing up, here at least in America, the band wasn't on my radar as much as like maybe some of the Genesis and Yes things. You know what I mean? But in the
Right.
last 10, 15 years, I feel like it's been really a resurgence.
Yeah, well, I think you're probably right. I think the the online presence, excuse me, and thankfully we had a lot of video outlets that we were able. My son, in fact, was very instrumental in say, getting the public to. The new public, if you like, to view the band, and we had a lot of footage taken during our period, our time in 10 years. So I think that was partly due to resurrection, if you like, not a resurrection, but certainly a reinvention of the band. But I think it was basically people seeing it, not perhaps the older fans, but the newer fans again who weren't even around
Yeah.
during the time when we were around, suddenly latching onto something that they had no idea about. So I think it probably again these platforms, the YouTubes and all the other things that they suddenly saw something which was, I hope, interesting.
Yeah.
At least.
And even to this day, I mean, the sound of the band is just still so unique. Um, I want to take you back to forming in 1970 or early 70s, when you guys were getting this sound together. Uh, where did that initial thing come from? Because I wonder if were you writing some songs and then going, well, that sounds too normal. How can we mess with this a little bit? What was driving that? Like, no, this is too much in a major key. Let's screw it up. Like, what was the thinking there when you were writing some of these things?
We didn't have any kind of like game plan, if you like. Really, it was after I was in a group before with my brothers,
Right.
and when we started Gentle Giant, we recruited players who were just brilliant players. I mean, the fact that Terry was the first one, and he had a degree in composition and percussion from the Royal Academy. And then Gary, who's an incredible blues player. Ultimately, we had two drummers, but John came in. But really, it was I think we opened a book with a blank page and our various backgrounds and likes and loves of whatever kind of music we were into. We started drawing it, and effectively that became Gentle Giant. That we didn't have any sort of let's make it sound like let's make it crazy, let's make it intricate. It was basically the inputs of everyone in the band, basically.
Yeah.
There weren't any sort of well, maybe one or two we influential artists kind of spirited us away from being in the first group. Frank Zappa being one, and the group I just mentioned, Spirit, which is
Mhm.
a band that I think a lot of British bands admired. But really, we had an open book, and what we did is is what you hear. And I've said this many times before, but if you want to put in the sort of what Kerry had, he has a classical background. Ray had a classical background in violin. Gary was a blueser. John was a drummer, a rock drummer. I had I loved R&B and rock and soul. If you turn it around and shove it in a funnel, and out drips Gentle Giant. So that's
Right.
really what you have basically.
Yeah, what a cool time that period was, really. You know, you had sort of the five or six mega big bands you guys included in there with, you know, your Jethro Tulls and Genesis. Yeah, so but and everybody was just really distinct and had their own take on music. No, nothing was nothing was the same between all the bands really, which was
No,
really really cool.
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we didn't have anyone to. I mean, there was again, we had no sort of game plan to follow someone's sound. I mean, our sound was who we were.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately not like today, which I get frustrated with today. But
Well,
no, it
I
was.
want to talk to you all about that kind of. I want to get into all the record executive mind because I love that stuff too. But I
Anyway,
do,
yeah.
yeah. Well, we do want to talk about the live reissue of Playing the Fool, the complete live experience, which again comes out on May 2nd. I got some notes here because I didn't want to forget what you had all involved here, but uh, reimagined, mixed, mastered, double CD, triple vinyl, Blu-ray, digital download. I mean, you got everything going on with this thing.
It should sink, and don't
Yeah,
stop.
yeah, it's pretty extensive. When you guys released that back in '77, you had already had a bunch of studio albums. Talk about that time, deciding to put out a live record and everything that went into it back then.
Well, I think we were during that period of time. I think we were pretty much on top of our game, in a lot of ways, both popularity wise and playing wise. I mean, we were 6 or 7 years into the band. We were now headlining pretty big venues. I mean, really all over the world. Well, more Europe and North America. Really quite big in places like Italy, Germany, and Quebec, and everywhere else. And we figured we'd give up to put a live album. What would give us a little bit of time to think about how to work and how to promote Interview, which is coming out after the live album. So that was basically it. I mean, it was let's map out and show people who perhaps haven't seen the band. Let's make a live album which you know um, basically captures what the band does and how it's been over the last 7 years. So I think we were at really at the top of our game during that period. A lot of bands actually, well, a lot. I've been asked a couple of times, why was it during that kind of period where there was quite a few live albums are coming out. Uh, excuse me. And I think that my answer, and I'll have to tell you this, is because I think that uh, during that period of time, you really had to play. I mean, if you couldn't play well, then you weren't going to get a fan base, and you weren't going to you weren't going to be popular.
Yeah, right.
We didn't have any hard drives or auto
Right.
tune or so quite a few bands had live albums, and the reason why is because they could play, and they wanted to show their fans and perhaps people who wanted to be fans or could be fans that look, we're not just a band that records an album. We're a band that we can actually play.
Yeah,
So
and that level of music too. I mean, well, that was sort of the glory era also of live albums. You know, you're talking
yeah,
about that was some of the ones from that era, even outside of Prague, right? The Peter Frampton or Cheap Trick or Kiss or the Who or
exactly.
whoever you name. I mean, those are epic, remembered live records. So, yeah, I mean, you had to sort of have one at that time, and also you didn't have YouTube. You know, for many people, that was their first time hearing the band live, right? Because they
Yeah,
didn't get a chance to see it or hear it anywhere else.
exactly. That was my point. And the bands that made live albums, um, I mean, they're still you could talk about them today,
Yeah.
and that says a lot. 45, 50 years later. Again, you didn't have the tech, all the tech stuff that you could make it could sound like perfection. It was always imperfect, but again, you could always tell who could play and who couldn't.
Yeah,
So
did you go into even more rehearsals at that time, knowing you were recording? Were you more concerned and more practiced at that point, or maybe just by then you were guys like you were saying you were so on top of your game anyway, it was just
yeah,
easy to do.
yeah, we were actually touring. We were touring Europe, and it was all we recorded in four cities in Europe. I think it was Munich, Dusseldorf, Brussels, and where was it? The last one? I can't think. Anyway, but yeah, we recorded in four venues and in a truck, with a truck outside, and no, it was all part of a tour. So we weren't like specifically, rehearsing it to make sure it's no, it was all part of the tour, and the truck would come along and put their mics in there as well as our own house mics. And after the tour, we went into the studio and put the mixes together. And again, there were no overdubs. We wanted to
Nice.
be, we wanted it to be as it was on stage. So that was very important to us. That even flubs and a little bit out of tune sometimes. That's normal. This is what you get when you play live. But with the monitors in front of you, no earplugs or anything like this.
Yeah.
Um, so that
Do you,
was that was what we did.
do you remember any countries or cities that where the shows or the audiences were more memorable than others during that period that just sort of stick in your mind?
For this album,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, based around that tour. Yeah.
um, I think Munich actually was probably the best show. But I think as far as audiences are concerned, but I think playing wise, we actually Paris was the last one. That was it. The Paris show. I think when it was put together, seemed to be the best recorded version of the playing the Fool. And when we first put it out, quite a few tracks were taken from the Paris show.
Hmm.
A couple were taken from Munich, some were taken from Dusseldorf, some were taken from Munich, from Belgium. But with this album, I don't know whether you know, there's not just a remix of the old album. It's really the whole experience of the band live,
Right.
uh, which I'm sure you know. So yeah, go ahead.
But
Sorry.
yeah, it's great. I think anybody that's a big time fan of the band is gonna be thrilled with this. Um, Talk about also the you were doing the octopus medley during that tour. How was putting that piece together as you were planning it?
No, I always loved doing that piece. I mean, that was a piece of music that we wanted to, encompass the whole album in our excerpts from Octopus. I mean, that was part of our show from when we recorded the album, and it was really fun to do because it was quite difficult actually,
I
but it was
imagine, yeah.
but it was difficult fun to do, and that's something we really enjoyed is pushing ourselves and pushing each other to do things that ordinarily would be, oh God, no, let's not, let's take it a little easier. We pushed each other to be better, and we had fun doing it. And the one thing that I always love to do is I always loved and we always loved is we had fun on stage, and we looked out to the audience, and they had fun also, and that was something very important. We had our live shows were fun and not just playing lots of instruments and playing all sorts of things. We wanted to show that we were also entertaining. And I think we enjoyed the audience when they walked out to have a smile on their face.
Yeah. Well, I think that's evident for sure. Um, moving on a little bit to you being a record executive. We touched. I remember talking about this with you on the a little bit on the last time we spoke. For those not familiar, I mean, you signed just mega bands like, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, but Bon Jovi, Cinderella, Dream Theater, Pantera, and the who dozens more, I'm sure that we listen to. So that's quite a list, especially for us. I mean, the Dream Theater thing is interesting alone. But when you see a band like that, I'm sure you know that they reunited with Mike Portnoy and they're doing their 40th anniversary tour. I wonder if you had any thought when you signed that band that that would be one of the big sort of prog bands to keep this music alive so many decades later.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Dream Theater in particular, it was interesting that when I was on the other side of the fence, the Darth Vader side, I signed the band. Well, Mike, came to the office and he had a 4-track demo of Dream Theater. They had an album prior to that,
Right. Yeah,
um,
when Dream and Day Unite was on
Mechanic, I think it
Mechanic,
was.
right? Mechanic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they were dropped or the company went bust or whatever. And he had 4 tracks, and he came into the office, and he was a great guy, and but he had no vocals. It was just 4 instrumental pieces, but they were superb. I mean, I thought, wow, this band can play. And I said, look, I don't know what is going to happen, but I really want you to find a really good vocalist. And so I signed them on a development deal because I heard what was potentially there in their music. And of course, they brought in uh,
James.
uh, James exactly, and we put them in the studio, and images and words were recorded. It was recorded, and then we listened to it, and we said let's get the single cut. Let's cut down. Uh, well, I'm sorry, I'm blanking today. Pull
Pull
me
Me Under
on,
you're talking about?
pull me under, yeah. And we went to radio, and they blew up. That was
Yeah.
it. I was really
Amazing.
happy because Mike and the band were, again, it came from like nowhere, but I heard the potential in these 4 instrumental tracks.
Did you know at the time that grunge was just about to happen? I think Dream Theater got in just before Nirvana hit, if I'm right. It was like right
About
just
the same
before
time.
it, around the same
Yeah, yeah.
time.
But
I
the
wonder
one
if a
thing,
year later, if Dream Theater comes to you a year later, I wonder if it's too late.
I don't think so. I think no matter what, there'll be fashions that come and go. But if you're really authentic, if you're really a band that
Right.
can really play and get an audience that will tell their friends, I've just seen a great band, come see them when they play in town. No, I don't. There'll be different fashions that will come in and out. I mean, look, there's always something that we will be new today and gone tomorrow. But I
Right.
think in Dream Theater now it's been what 30,
Well,
35 years.
40 years. No, 40 years now. This is the 40th anniversary tour. Um,
Yeah.
do you follow sort of what's going on in the music industry now, or does that still pique your interest in terms of how streaming has affected things and now AI getting involved? And does that still interest you at all to see what's going on? Do you have any take on any of it?
Um, well, I think, yeah, I have a take on it. I think it's sad actually that that how can I say this? That you can sit there with a computer and make music that that we used to do, but we had to learn our instruments and compose and rehearse and try things out. If they didn't do well, then you forget it. There are so many programs that you could do. However, that's the issue now, because there's so many tracks that are out there that are made completely by by tech, computers, and I think there's such an overload. I mean, I'm going to say this right now, that I think there's going to be some kind of backlash at some point where people are going to just say, I want to see a band that doesn't have, you know, all the pyro and everything else, and auto tunes and the backing tracks and basically lip sync and everything else. Someone, I mean, like when the Beatles started, which they started everything. I mean, really, they really did. Um, all they had was 3 guitars, a drummer, no, no,
That's it.
no pyro, no,
Yeah.
no, no lasers, just great songs and great musicianship. Um, that has to come back sometime. But however, when you're asking me about AI, it's in one way I think it's weird, but on the other hand, you know, I'll be honest, I'm using it, and I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm using it for one of our albums, which we weren't able to get the multi-tracks, they were lost. And I'm working um, with a studio which has the highest end AI ability to separate the tracks.
Right.
And I'm in the studio right now with In a Glass House, that album, and we'll see what happens. So it's fascinating, but nevertheless,
Well,
um,
different than having it write that album, right? So, so
exactly,
it's a
exactly
big
that. I mean,
difference.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly true. We wrote the album, we recorded it, but yeah, exactly. But yeah, do I think it's a good timing music? No, I don't. I think it's awful. I mean, I think most of the music that comes is so forgettable. I just don't know who is who, except for, I mean, there's been a handful of really good artists that have come through in the last 10, 15 years, but no more than a handful as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, it's a really a sad thing.
It's a tough time. I think one of the genres, I mean, maybe I'm biased against it because I get to experience all of it with the music that I get to listen to and review and work with and in the prog world. There is a lot of great bands and musicians in this genre. They unfortunately stand almost zero chance of reaching the heights of what you guys did, in this day and age, just being realistic. But incredible bands, and if you are a fan out there that wants to see people that actually still play their instruments, this is one of the genres to do it. I mean, you still have to know how to play your guitar to do this stuff, and you got to know how to play it well.
Yeah, exactly that. And I commend bands that go out there and make a living. What a band, should not, or a group or an artist shouldn't think about is being famous and rich. Just be authentic and good. That's
Right,
the key. Just, and if you make a living at it, all the better.
right.
There's so much emphasis on fame and followers and likes and everything else. Yeah, to hell with that, man. Just go out there and play and get an audience, and that's the way that it worked. That's the way that it works back in the day, and that's the way that it'll work going forward somehow or other.
Well, I imagine when you were looking to sign bands, I think, there's always the band that got signed that becomes the big one, and then record labels sign 10 other ones to try and replicate it. That was always something that kind of happened. But the ones that always started it out, those were the biggest and best ones everybody still remembers today, I think. I mean, th- did you like when somebody came to you that was completely different? I mean, was that what you
Absolutely.
were looking for?
Different meaning authentic, yes. I mean, yeah, because if they were trying to be, if they were being followers, then they're not going to be. You can have a hit, but you're not going to be big.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to have a career or a lifespan of 50 or 100, whatever it is. You have to do something which is yours. When I signed Pantera, um,
Right.
the, I mean, I was running a company, and I went down to this little club I had a scout, and so, and I went down to this little club in Arlington, Texas, as I was the president of a company, and within 3 songs, I could just literally, I just was, holding my arm, and then I just thought, okay, I became a fan beyond a fan. And when you have that feeling that they've just dragged me into the stage and dragged me into their world, they're going to be, they could drag everyone into the world. And that's why I signed them. And in fact, I mean, I couldn't get them on the radio because they were so heavy. I couldn't
Yeah.
get them on TV. But what I did was make sure that I put money behind their touring to make sure to do the same thing that I found being sucked into them, to help them tour. And when they toured, sure enough, their friends, the people that went to see them, told their friends, and they came back to the venue the next time and sold it out. They became huge in a live
Yep.
sense in a very short period of time, and Unfortunately, Vinny and Dime are gone now, but even now with this band, they're still out there.
Yeah, I went and saw one of these new shows last year, and it was still even in this format because the songs are just so great. You know, you
Yeah,
just
but
remember them, and it's just,
yeah,
um, just
but back in the
they,
day,
yeah,
it was very special, and that's what you they were Pantera. They weren't anything else. And the same goes for most just about every band that I was involved in. I wanted to, if you were trying to be someone else, that didn't work for me.
yeah, agreed. I think that holds today. You know, it's like you said, you can have a hit, but no one's gonna remember. You're not gonna be this big, you know, mega thing for 50 years. Um,
Yeah.
Well, again, let's just revisit the playing the Fool complete live experience. It's coming out on May 2nd. Of course, there's tons of different reissues that have come out over the years, and a lot of great music in the Gentle Giant catalog and world. So, always fun talking to you, picking your brain on record label things and what else is going on. Great to talk to you, man, and good luck with everything.
Thanks very much. Good to
All right,
see
man.
you.
See ya. Hey, thanks for checking out the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on all our socials and progreport.com. And we'll see you all again real soon. Thanks.